Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me okay. My name is Megan O'Connor. As just said, I'm a general nursing graduate from Trinity College Dublin. I just finished up my 4-year degree programme there a mere few weeks ago, and I'm currently serving as a TCD SU education officer. I have to say I have thoroughly enjoyed today. It's absolutely fantastic to see all of the work that has been done, and it is so encouraging. And I wish every single student involved in work placement could come along and see all of the work that's been done. It's so encouraging and positive, and I just have to commend everyone for the work that's been done. It's absolutely fantastic, and it is really everything's moving in the right direction, and it's fantastic to see. So a little bit about me. I am from Clarny, County Kerry. I moved to Dublin to pursue a career in general nursing. It's what I always wanted to do. I bounced around from hospital to hospital over the last 4 years. I participated in an Erasmus programme, and an awful lot of it was incredibly daunting. But it made me the person that I am today. I found new hobbies and everything else. And you may ask, why does this matter? It's because of this programme I'm sitting before you today. And it's because of where I came from that I was the student that I was. And this has an impact on everything, and each student is an individual. And there needs to be room for flexibility in the programmes that are run, and there needs to be a consideration for students as learners and individuals, as opposed to just names and numbers. So I hope this presentation will work. Oh, there we go. So work-based assessments. Placements and internships are an absolutely integral part of higher education for many students. Like, as we mentioned on a number of occasions so far today, it's exactly what you want to do. It's really, really exciting going out on placements and internships, because you finally get that opportunity to apply your knowledge to practice. It's terrifying, I can attest to that, but it's brilliant, and there are so many learning opportunities available. But work-based assessment has to be continually monitored and enhanced. It will offer better learning opportunities for students. What it will do is it will ensure that the learning outcomes are accurate, because the assessment should reflect that. Proper transparency and student representation in the review and the ongoing review of work-based assessment will not only improve the student experience, but I truly believe it will ultimately lead to a better and more holistic higher education system, because students are the ones that are dealing and being part of this every single day on a day-to-day basis. So who are the stakeholders? Again, it's something that we discuss so often, and it's everyone. It is absolutely everyone. The majority of students who go out on placements are working in public service. So yes, higher education institutes, professional bodies, students and governments play part of it, but so do the public. It is impacting every single person. Professional guidelines are in place to protect the public as much as they are students, but students feel completely removed from these discussions and decisions that directly impact them and their futures. An awful lot of students don't engage with these guidelines and don't understand the importance of them to their practice, and that is something that needs to be addressed. And I think it can be through better transparency and communication, and empowering students to understand why they need to abide by these guidelines. Learning outcomes, again, are without doubt one of the most important parts of a student's education, and they do need to be clearly communicated and relevant. They need to be updated. Students need to understand the rationale behind the learning outcomes and recognise the application of theory to practice. So it's well and good knowing that you need to do something, but why do you need to do it? You need to critically think. These are professionals that will be out and independent before we all know it, and they won't always have supervision. Their students need to understand the rationale of their learning outcomes, and there's no point in applying learning outcomes across the board. They have to be specific, and they have to be flexible. They need to be in line with good quality practices and need to be regularly updated. And these empowered students that have all of this knowledge will thrive, and they will do better, and they will be better. They should be included in the conversations and their learning outcomes, because there's constantly new ways of thinking and emerging research, and who better to propose new ideas than those that are new to a department or a system. There needs to be a focus on moving away from hours and more towards learning outcomes and achievements. An awful lot of professional regulatory guidelines, I've read many of them, they focus on hours or weeks, and that's what's valued by students. There is absolutely no point in a student sitting in a corner of a placement where they don't feel valued and they're not participating or contributing to it. But that is the means of their placement. It's a tick the box. It's a tick the box that we've all referenced at some point today. We need to move towards better learning outcomes and achievements and ensuring that students have that good understanding. Micro-credentialing as well wasn't originally included in my slideshow, but it's something that was mentioned today and I thought it was incredibly interesting. Apologies. I thought it was incredibly interesting because in professional bodies, an awful lot of the time micro-credentialing isn't available. And that's understandable because students are pursuing one particular strain, but also it would be absolutely incredible to ensure, as was mentioned previously, that students could actually look into the areas that they are more interested in, and if we could adapt that and ensure that students could shadow preceptorships and everything, it would be absolutely fantastic. Assignment of tasks, scope of practice, and defined by the professional bodies is often not very true to practice. There are common reports that students and the tasks allocated to them are trivial and outside of their scope of practice. Learning outcomes, again, we're coming back to the same thing. If they're precise and that area of practice is informed and reinforced at every opportunity, the prioritisation of learning and skills will be much better and not just based on the completion of tasks. In relation to assessment, continuity and authenticity is absolutely imperative. And there was something noted by a previous speaker that I found very interesting. It was, if employability is dynamic and adaptive and work certainly is, how can assessment emulate this? And I think that's something that I'll be sticking up on my wall over the coming weeks and we'll be looking at, because it's absolutely bang on. If students are understanding and value the active part in this assessment methods where appropriate, along with the facilitators, because there's no point in we going full steam ahead with the facilitators can't ensure that they're able to hold through to these assessments. And in an awful lot of placements, these are professionals first and foremost that are assisting students and facilitating students in those placements, and we need to be cognizant of the fact that they may be very tight in time and we have short staffing levels, and it needs to be appropriate for them also. We need to encourage critical thinking and integration of knowledge and move away again from ticking the box. Integration and collaboration between universities and practice is imperative in ensuring the accurate application of theory to practice. Assessments are terrifying. It's often a snapshot. You could be working with a person that is assessing you for the very first time that day. There is an urgent requirement for more flexibility in alternative assessment methods. And I do think COVID has offered us a very unique opportunity to step back and reassess how we are assessing students. And feedback and reflection, as what was noted by a previous speaker, it was absolutely fantastic about the feedback and reflection, and that there's such an emphasis put on that, because feedback is well and good, but if you can't get a greater understanding of why you didn't do so well, then you can't improve. And if you equip students with the knowledge of how they can do better, they will. And it's something that I think is actually very easily achieved, and I think through collaboration and communication. That is possibly one of the biggest things I've taken from today, and it's absolutely imperative. Communication, again, transparency in the work that's being done. I'll be telling everyone about this, and clear points of contact for students to address or report issues. This is unfortunately something that's not quite as light a topic. There are a lot of lines and reporting procedures in place in professional accreditation courses, as they should be. But if a student has an issue or or just any kind of issue with an individual that's they're meant to be reporting their issues to, where do they go then? It's a difficult one, and then that's where we see the gaps between the institutions and practice, and it's who is really governing these students when they're out on placement, and who is to be held accountable, and who is to care for them and look after them when they need it, and that is something that needs more work. There needs to be clear responsibility sharing between HEIs, professional bodies and placement providers, and partnering with students in the designs of these assessments. Students or workers, it is a conversation I'm sure that everyone is aware of at the minute. It's all over social media, and again it ties into the fear of students being exploited for their work, and that they are there just to fill a role, that they will be carrying out medial tasks and not focusing on their learning. And there needs to be a clear distinction. There is continually changing scopes of practice, but they need to be clear. And I think if a student could go into a placement every week with a goal for the end of the week, and many do, But if there was more of an emphasis on that and the reinforcement of those learning outcomes, I think that would in itself clearly distinguish between students and workers. Barriers for students, something that we all need to be cognizant of. It might necessarily be relevant to all conversations, but it impacts them, and it impacts assessment and learning outcomes. There are long systemic barriers to students which have an impact on their ability to engage in placements and achieving their learning outcomes. And we need to be cognizant of the fact that a student might have a bad day, or a student might have a bad week. That student might not be able to afford the travel to their placements due to socioeconomic difficulties. They might have learning disabilities that is impeding their ability to access the information that they need, and they might not have those learning supports in placements. It does happen where students can be very, very supported within the college, but unfortunately that doesn't always carry through, and through no fault of anyone's. Women in STEM, there is a long existing gender bias there that we're all aware of, and men in caring roles as well. So culture needs to change, and it's no easy task, but it can be done, and one step at a time. Survey findings, just to touch on them. I know myself, my background is in nursing, so I'm more familiar with these statistics. But the striking one is the one over there to the right hand side. In 2015, over half of all student nurses and student midwives, in Trinity in a survey in 2015 felt victimised or bullied while in their work placements in maternity hospitals. Over 3/4 of them believed that they were given responsibilities above their training or expertise, while 2/3 of them found that their degree programme was harmfully affecting their mental health and considered dropping out in their course. Now that is a absolutely shocking statistic, and it is being addressed. It's being addressed every day, and people are trying to do that. But again, we see the breakdown between placements and higher education institutes and who's really responsible for that, and who is the person that has to address that. These students not only fall between placements in the college, they also fall between two entirely different departments in government. Is the Department of Health that's meant to be looking after them? Is the Department of Higher Education that's been newly founded? We don't know. Also, the INMO survey said that 71% are considering leaving Ireland, and we're talking about employability and ensuring that students are engaging in their workplace. And if we foster good workplace environments, it serves to benefit everyone. And hopefully we'll have more students staying as we continue. How do we bridge that collaboration at local and national level? It's just important. There's no point in addressing one without the other. If we empower students with this knowledge, they will be able to do that. And addressing issues when they arise. Silence on issues contributes to harmful workplaces and is not conducive with a vulnerable learning environment. Everyone is human. Everyone makes mistakes, and they shouldn't be the be-all and end-all. And if we ensure that we foster an environment where everyone is confident and comfortable with raising questions and disclosing information where there may be mistakes, we will contribute to a much better and safer learning environment for students. The COVID implications. I mean, students on placements have just had an incredibly difficult time, and I really feel for anyone that may be trying to facilitate those placements. I know I've seen it firsthand how difficult it has been, but students in schools have been incredibly resilient, and this has shown the caliber of individuals I guess we're dealing with on all scales. But two major things that shown up was the over-reliance on casual placements. There needs to be clear agreements made with placements, and that they can't just cancel them, because then what happens is the schools are left scrambling to find placements for students so they can abide by the guidelines. It's really, as I mentioned before, a unique opportunity to reevaluate how we think of and treat work-based learning. What now? Collaboration, communication, consideration. It is absolutely essential that we commit to continue to improve and show the work that's been done already. Today alone we have so much advice and research, and it's absolutely incredible. I mean, the topics that I've touched on are by no means exhaustive, but good work environments encourage better work and better together. And I hope I've touched on things enough. It is certainly a pit stop tour. I think I could talk about this topic forever. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone for your time, and that's all for me.